Hello and welcome back to my garden and welcome to my channel saying yes to life. I'm Delisa Renideo and I'm coming to you from my garden here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. You know, there's a difference between believing something in theory and trusting something because you've seen it happen yourself. Our world and our lives can feel so confusing that we don't even know what to believe anymore. Well, I believe in butterflies. Not because I understand the process, because I don't really, but because life keeps showing us that it knows how to do things that I could never design on my own. If we set out to build a butterfly, none of us would imagine starting with a caterpillar that completely dissolves itself into what looks like chaos. But that is what actually happens. The caterpillar doesn't transform while it's still moving around like a caterpillar. First, it becomes still, attaches to something, and then it forms a cocoon around it. And inside that cocoon, much of the old form of the caterpillar really does break down. It turns to mush. That familiar structure dissolves. From the outside, it would look like everything went terribly wrong, and yet, from the inside, something entirely new is organizing itself. Now, not because someone intervenes from the outside, but because the blueprint was already there in the caterpillar. You know, our lives often move through moments like that. Times when what used to work no longer does. When the old structures fall away. When we don't recognize ourselves anymore. When it feels like everything is uncertain. And in those moments, our mind wants answers. It wants certainty. It wants to know, where is this going? But life doesn't usually offer certainty in the middle of transformation. Have you noticed that? It offers an invitation. We're living in a time when there's a lot of chaos, personally and collectively. And without some inner orientation, it's very easy to just become overwhelmed. We feel it in our bodies, we become tense, our thoughts race. Even small things feel like they're just too much to handle. We either react quickly or maybe we shut down completely. That's not a personal failure. It's what happens when our bodies think we're in danger. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels threatened. And when we're in that state, it's very easy to add our own fear and dismay to the chaos around us. So the question becomes, how do we meet life when it feels like this? How do we stay present and steady when nothing feels certain? Now, what I'm pointing to here isn't just optimism. It's not pretending that things are fine, and it's not bypassing our pain. It's a way of meeting life, a way of staying oriented when we don't know what's coming next. Some people might call this faith, but the word faith can be loaded, and people have lots of different viewpoints on what is faith. What I mean is the willingness to remain in love, in gratitude, and in presence, even while things are unresolved. When we lose that orientation, our nervous systems go into survival mode, fight or flight. Everything feels urgent. Everything feels threatening. And this is where believing in butterflies matters. Believing in butterflies doesn't make the chaos disappear, but it changes how we meet it. It reminds us that uncertainty isn't always a problem that we need to solve. Sometimes it's a process we just need to move through. And when we remember how life creates a butterfly, how stillness comes before the transformation, how breakdown is part of the process, it's not a failure, how something new can organize itself from within, then our bodies can relax just a little. We can breathe again. Our shoulders can soften. We stop bracing for the worst. Now, up until now, I've been talking mostly about our own inner lives, about how we stay centered and steady when our own lives feel chaotic and stressful. But the butterfly reminds us that this isn't just a personal process. The same thing is happening on a much larger scale. The systems of our world are breaking down in ways that can feel frightening and confusing. And just like the caterpillar, we can't predict what's coming next by looking at the old forms that are dissolving. The butterfly reminds us that even in large systems, a new way of life is forming, one that we can't even yet imagine. And our own inner work, how we tend our energy, how we choose love, kindness, and coherence, is part of what allows that new world to create something beautiful. And from that calmer place, we don't have to rush or panic. We can take the next small step. We can keep moving forward, not because we know how everything will turn out, but because we trust the direction we're choosing, the direction of kindness, of gratitude, of love, of joy. And not just as moods that we have to try to manufacture, but as a path that we choose to walk, especially when the way ahead isn't clear. Staying centered during times of change isn't a luxury, it isn't denial, and it isn't passive. It's a very active choice, one that protects our inner world and quietly supports the outer one. And in times like this, staying coherent isn't just a personal kindness, it's a quiet contribution to the collective. I believe in butterflies, not because they're pretty, although they are, but because they remind me that life has been doing this for a very long time. Transformation looks like chaos from the inside, but that doesn't mean it is chaos. So if your life feels like a cocoon right now, you may feel closed in, it may feel uncomfortable, unresolved. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Life has done this before. Butterflies remind me that life knows what it's doing, and that gives me faith. My invitation to you this week is to think of your life from the perspective of life creating butterflies. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please share this with anyone that may be having a struggle. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe below. I'll see you again soon.